What's going on, guys? My name is Caleb and welcome back to the Codecademy HTML and CSS course. We're going to continue learning about our CSS by going to Codecademy, heading over to the CSS and overview. And we're going to start with the section 2, which is, I believe, CSS Syntax. Yep. Okay. So let's go to number 7 and let's just reset our code. So syntax for the win tags. CSS syntax is different from the HTML you're used to, but don't worry, it's easy to pick up. The general format looks like this. You have a selector, then you have a property, and then you have a value. A selector can be any HTML element, such as a paragraph tag, an image tag, or a table tag. You just take off the brackets to make a paragraph text red with CSS. You type in the paragraph, then you'd say the color, and then you'd set it to red, because this P is going to be the selector, color is going to be the property, and the value we're setting it is going to be red. A property is an aspect of a selector. For instance, you can change the font family, color, and font size of the text on your web pages, in addition to many more. A value is a possible setting for a property. Color can be red, blue, black, or almost any color. Font family can be a whole bunch of different fonts, and so on. You need to end each property value with a semicolon. That's how CSS knows you're done with one pair and ready for the next. The instructions are, okay, time for you to write some CSS all on your own. In the Style Sheet .css tab, make the font color of the paragraph selector green. Check the hint if you need help. So if we look over into our HTML, we already see that where our CSS is already linked up, and then we see a paragraph. You're about to style this paragraph with CSS on your own. So let's go to our style sheet, and if we look back up here, we need a selector, okay? So our selector is, we're going to select the P paragraph, hit space, then hit open and open curly brace, alright? Then hit enter so you get both of them separated, and then it's going to automatically indent for you. And then now we need to add a property, which we need to add the property of color. Now once we have color, we need to make sure that we put a colon, and then like I said before, it's already adding a semicolon right there. So now what we need to do is set the value, and it wants it to be the color of green. So let's just hit space and then type in green. And there you go. We just successfully styled our HTML paragraph, or our web page really, with CSS. So let's go ahead and save and submit our code. Awesome, way to go. Let's start the next lesson and let's reset. One selector, many properties. Great work. Another cool advantage of CSS is that you can set many properties for one selector. For instance, if you want to set a paragraph's font, font color, and font size, you can simply write the paragraph, open curly brace, and then we can start setting the properties of our font family, and then the value set to Arial, the property of color, and set the value to blue, and then the property of font size and set it to 24 pixels. Remember, in each property with a value pair with a semicolon. Please note, if you have adjusted your browser zoom, tests involving font size and height will not work correctly. To remedy this, please type Command 0 or Control 0 to reset your view. So underneath your color, green, property value pair, but before the final curly brace, set the font family to Garmin and the font size to 24 pixels. So let's go back into our our style sheet tab. I was going to say CSS, but it's the same thing. And now we're just going to come right after our color, hit enter, and now we're going to say font-family, colon, not L, but colon, and then we're going to set to Garmin. Okay? And let's just go after it. And now let's set the font-size, and let's type in 24 pixels. And like I said before, you don't have to worry about adding the semicolon after each statement, just because the Codecademy editor automatically does it for you. But if you're using some kind of text editor or anything that's not sophisticated as like Dreamweaver or Sublime Text or anything like that, you'd have to use it. You'd have to type it really. So right now, if we look over here, we see that our actual paragraph has actually changed now. It's now the font size is 24 and it has a font family of Garmin, and it's all obviously set to green. So let's go ahead and save and submit our code, but I'm going to reset my view right quick so I can pass it. And there you go, way to go. And I'm going to zoom back in here and reset the code again. So many selectors, many properties. Great work. They say that practice makes perfect, so let's do a couple more. We'll talk even more about selectors in the next course. Make all the H3 headings red. So let's go to our style sheet, and now what we have to do is, for our selector, we're going to say H3, because that's going to be the tag that we are selecting. Add your curly braces, and now we have to say color for the property, colon, space, and then type in red. And now all of our H3 elements in our CSS or in our HTML file are now going to be red thanks to our CSS. Now it says set all the paragraphs to the font or the Courier font family. So make sure the capitalized Courier as shown. So now we're just going to say P for our selector, space, open curly brace, hit enter, and now we're going to say font dash family, colon, and then we're going to say Courier. C-O-U-R-I. I don't know why I keep typing T. There we go. Courier. So now we can see that our paragraphs are now set to the Courier font. The second paragraph contains text between a span tag. Set the background color of that span to yellow. So now what we have to do is, since we want to select the span, we're just going to type in span, add our curly braces, and it's nice if you use space and then indent, like so. And then what we're going to say, background dash color, and we're going to set it to yellow, like so. Now if we look over here, really rad is now highlighted, or really it looks highlighted, but really just has a background color set to yellow. So if we go back to our index HTML, if we look down here, we have a paragraph which obviously has a font family of Courier, and then we see the span tags which have really rad in between, and then that's what we're selecting with our CSS span, and we're setting just that span, or really any other span tag that's in our index HTML. We're giving it a background property, and we're setting the color to yellow. So if it looks like this, you're doing something right. So go ahead and save and submit your code. Way to go. And let's reset. The importance of semicolons. As you start adding more and more property value pairs for each CSS selector, it's important to remember to put a semicolon at the end of each line. The semicolon tells CSS that one property value pair is over and it's time to move on to the next one. Without semicolons, it will become confused and your page won't look right. Also, don't forget all property value pairs for a selector are surrounded by curly braces, which are those beautiful little curly braces that we've been using in our CSS style sheets. So the CSS in our stylesheet.css file is broken. Some of the curly braces are out of whack, and semicolons are missing. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, fix the CSS. So let's go ahead and check out our CSS and see what we got going on here. So if we look right here, we have an H3 selector. Okay, so that looks good. We have an open curly brace, so far we're off to a good start. Now if we look at the font family property, we should have a colon after each property, which we do. And now if we look right here at Redina, that's going to be the value, but we don't have a semicolon. So let's make sure we add a semicolon. And as you can see, it's already making changes to our CSS, or to our HTML. So now if we look over here to our second property of our H3 selector, we now have the property of color. And then we have the value set to blue. Also make sure that we have this colon in between our property and our value, but we're still missing a semicolon, so let's add that semicolon. So now we can see recent projects is now set to blue. Now we see this little X right here. So we have a parenthesis, and what we need a closing curly brace. So let's go ahead and close that curly brace like so. And then let's look down on line 6. We see that we have a paragraph for our selector, but we have a bracket. We don't need this bracket, we need an open curly brace. And let's just delete the ending curly brace. Now let's look at the font family, which is going to be our property, which that looks spelled right. We have a colon, which is good. We have the value of Garmin, which is good, but we don't have a semicolon. So let's add another semicolon. And then we have font dash size, which looks correct. Then we have the colon, which is good. And then we have it set to 16 pixels, which is legit. So now let's make sure we add a semicolon like so. And you'll see each time that it's proper, your color will change. As you can see now, our selectors and our properties and our values are all different colors. But if we were to delete the semicolon, well, it should have gone back, but it didn't. But oh well, it would have been a different color like before. Now, if we look on line 9, we have an open curly brace, or curly bracket, whatever you want to call it, but we don't need that. We just need a closing curly brace, like so, and that should fix all of our CSS problems. So everything looks good. So let's go ahead and save and submit our code. So did you fix, oh, that's because I'm zoomed in. Let me reset my view, save and submit. Awesome, way to go, and let me zoom back in here. So let's just reset. Now, color commentary. Great. You're really getting the hang of this. While it's important to get all your syntax down correctly, it's also a good idea to write comments as you go along. Good comments will help remind you why you did something a certain way, or will help someone else out if they're reading your code without you there to explain it. As you've seen, HTML comments look like this, and then we have a less than sign, an exclamation mark, and then 2 dashes. Then we have our comment, and then we finish off our comment with an exclamation mark, or not an exclamation mark. We just finish off our comment with 2 dashes and then a greater than sign. So CSS comments, on the other hand, look like this. We have a forward slash, then we have an asterisk, which is that little star. Then we have our comment, then we have an asterisk, and then another forward slash. So remember, the computer doesn't look at comments when figuring out what your HTML and CSS should do, but writing good comments is a good habit you want to pick up. The instructions are, see the CSS we've added with the piece selector in the style.css file. Comment it out. That is, put the forward slash and then the asterisk sign before the paragraph in the tab, and the asterisk and the forward slash after the closing curly brace. So let's go to our style sheet, and before our paragraph selector, we just need to add a comment by putting the forward slash and then that. And as you can see, it's kind of already commented out, but it's going to comment everything down out. If you were to have additional CSS down here, like for example, if you were to have another selector, a paragraph, and then some other whatever you want to put in there for the properties, it would also have that comment out like before. But now, if we were to add our comment by closing off our comment like so, and then add our new selector, and then say like color and then set to red or something, you can see then that this is not commented out. So we're just going to delete that. That's just for examples purposes only, and just making sure that we have our comment. And I'll just hit enter. That way we can definitely see our comment for our forward slash, and then asterisk, which is just shift 8, and then after our whatever we want to comment out, we're just going to hit shift 8 again to get our asterisk, and then add another forward slash. So as long as this is commented out, just go ahead and save and submit your code. Awesome, way to go. So check yourself before you wreck yourself. You've learned a lot in just a few short lessons. We're impressed. Let's quickly review to make sure you really know your stuff. So add a link to the style sheet.css between your head tags. So let's go up here into our head. And remember, when we add links, we need 3 attributes. The first one's going to be, well, let's just do our rel. And then we're going to set this to style sheet. And then we're going to say style is going to equal to CSS, or really it's text / CSS. And then after that, we're going to add our href so we know where to locate our style sheet. And we're just going to type in style sheet.css. And make sure to remember that this is a self-closing tab. So we're just going to do a forward slash and then a greater than bracket to self-close that out. Okay, so now change the H1 headers font family to Verdana. So let's go over here to our style sheet, and for our selector we're going to say H1 because we're selecting all H1 elements, and it looks nicer if you space these between. And now we're just going to say the property of font family, and we're going to set the value of the font family's property to Verdana. So there we go, and as you can see, this just changed to Verdana, and that looks good. So now it says change the H3 headers font family to Courier. So now just going to make another selector for our H3, space, curly braces, hit enter, once again font dash family colon, and then we're going to set it to Courier. I don't know why I always add T's, but now this is now Courier, and hit enter again. Now we're going to make the paragraph text color purple. So let's add P because we're selecting the paragraph tag, open our curly braces up, hit enter, and now we're just going to say color for the property, and then we're going to set the value of that to purple, and let's just space this because it's going to look a lot nicer. So now that's purple, and then it says add a CSS comment after, so let's just add a newly CSS comment. This is a comment, awesome, and make sure that you add your asterisk and your / at the end just to close out the comment. And that's all we have to do. So let's go ahead and save and submit our code. And did you remember to include a type text equals CSS in your link? Oh, I don't know why I put style. Change the type. I'm an idiot. So now save and submit. Congratulations, you finished this section. So if you like the video, guys, make sure to thumbs it up. Don't forget to subscribe for more in future videos. Don't leave do leave comments, but don't forget to leave comments down below. Man. Alright guys, until next time, you guys have a good day. Hopefully this helped you out.